Hey, I got a light, boy. Hey, I got a light. Hey, I got a light, boy.
Hi folks, Norfolk Boy here, keep on a trashing. Winter is slowly creeping up upon us and I've just done 2 models now. I've just almost finished my black pearl model, however I want to create some water, so my wife's going to give me a hand with that one to make some water around the ship, because the stand they give with it is absolutely useless. So that was the last project that I was doing, and I just feel like I hopefully might be able to slip in some of another model before it gets too cold out here. I have got heaters in here, but it isn't really great. So this is my model railway shed, or whatever you want to call it, abode, but in the winter it can be pretty damn cold. Any old ways up. This is the Revell. This is the Revell. It's a level 3. It's a 1.24 scale, and it's the Jaguar E-type. Now, I've loved doing cars, and I feel I can probably do an even better job nowadays. So I thought I would get this, and yeah, I'm looking forward to creating it. As you can see, it's pretty well detailed. Let's see what we get in the box before I start. So let's slip all of this out. Oh yes. So okay, does it say how many parts? Yes, it does. 142. 42 is the answer to the universe and everything, according to Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, but there's 100 on in front of that, so it's not quite right, but you know, I like the number 42, so that's great. Right, so here's the instructions, here's the body, here's the chrome part. Oh boy, do I love chrome parts. Some tyres, some real rubber tyres, lovely jubbly, all the little bits and pieces like the steering wheel, the engine compartment parts and stuff like that. Glass, here's your glass bits and pieces, your windows, mirrors, lights and all that kind of thing. Here's some more of the carb at the bottom half by the look of it. So yeah, lots and lots of lovely parts to be messing around with. And of course the first thing I want to do is wash all these and leave them out to dry naturally. So, and I'm going to include the glass this time, because I feel like that's probably a good idea without getting it too scratched or anything. So yeah, some soapy water, some warm soapy water, possibly a little bit of vinegar in. I don't know if that makes any difference, but I'm going to do it anyway. Yeah, and then we'll lay it all out to dry, and then it'll be ready to start and commence with. So magic stuff. So I've washed everything and it's all sitting out waiting to dry naturally. So there it all is, super stuff. Here obviously I've got my instructions on some of the colours I need. I've already picked the red I want for my particular E-type Jag, and it's this one, and it's actually an Audi colour, laser red, but that's the one I've picked, so that's the one I'm going to use. I rather like. And here also is the safety instructions, but also, as you can see under there, all of the decals. So we've got everything here that we need, so that's absolutely fantastic. So yeah, I'm gonna hit this thing as soon as I possibly can, and I've got the time to start. But all this stuff can now dry naturally and we can move on to the next stage. So the first thing I'm doing here really is I bought these pads. These pads are absolutely brilliant. So I'm using them dry, but you can use them dry or wet actually. They're really soft and bendy, and you can get them in all sorts of different positions. And I'm very lightly sanding down the bodywork inside and out, if I can, actually, to be fair, so that we can spray it with some undercoat. And I'm going to use some surface primer. Have some white primer. You don't have to, you can use grey obviously, but I'm going to use white. I'm using this as a top coat, so hopefully these two will work well together. We'll soon find out one way or the other, but I think they probably will. I think they're both acrylic. Yep, So, you know, no trouble whatsoever. That's what that's all about. So, yeah, I'll give this a bit of a rub down. And then what I'm going to do first is get the inside primed on both of these. And then that will dry. And then I'll be able to paint the top halves of them as well with primer. And then we'll be able to see any more blemishes and marks that we need to sand out, because the primer will actually show you a little bit more, you know, bad bits and pieces anywhere on the plastic. Doesn't look like there's that much anyway on this model, but you never know until you get them primed. So that's the next stage. So this is my little homemade spray booth that I made a long while ago, that I saw on YouTube, I think it was. Stick a little computer fan on top to draw it back out. Again, I don't normally spray anything inside my little place here, but if it's only something small and it's just, you know, quick, then I don't mind doing it to keep it in a warm place. But I normally do this in my garage, but I brought it in here just to put a little bit of undercoat on the inside of these two parts to begin with. So that's what I'm going to do. I can possibly turn them around quite easily doing the insides, and think of some other way to sort them out when I do the outside, but for the time being it's perfect to just do it like this. So I'm just going to stick some paper under here, so I don't want to get too much spray everywhere, and I'm just going to give the insides a bit of a primer, and then they can dry overnight, and then I can prime the other side. So that's exactly where I'm going to start, so I'm going to go ahead and do that right now. Also, by the way, I did buy myself a superb mask. This is a necessity when you're doing anything like this, or anything that's really harmful to you, really. I looked this up, and it really has got some great reviews. It's not all that expensive, about 20 odd pound, I think, something like that, on Amazon. I'll leave a link. This is absolutely brilliant and keeps a lot of the dangerous stuff away from you. It's a complete mask that goes completely over your face and has filters, and that you can breathe nice and properly while you use it. It's almost like a gas mask in a way, but it's quite comfortable. It's quite comfortable. You can replace the filters, and the filters, I do believe, are possibly recyclable. I'm not sure, but anyway, yeah. Great idea. This is definitely what you want if you're going to do any spraying, certainly in a confined space like I'm doing right now. It's been a nice warm day today, but what I would do is give this a really good shake for at least a minute, if not more. Sometimes I'll pop this in some hot water, or some warm water anyway, up to about there, just to warm what's up inside, and then give it a damn good shake. That's the best thing to do, especially with gloss or anything like that, especially if it's a little bit cold. Today it's a beautiful warm day. We're now in the sort of kind of middle of September here in the UK, and to be honest, we've had a hot day today, 25 degrees, so this is a perfect night to just quickly give a couple of coats of whatever if I can, because to be honest, there's rubbish on the telly, and so I'd rather be doing this than that. So yeah, I'm going to give this a good shake, and we're going to give these two a prime on the inside. Okay, so let's begin. So I'm going to begin with a number 1, of course, and we're going to go put together the engine here. So there's these two parts and the sump, I guess, which is over here. So yeah, that's what we've got to do to start with, and we've got to do a bit of painting. I am waiting for some paints to come, so possibly I won't be able to do much today, but still I've sprayed the body. The body itself looks pretty good. However, there's a little bit of strangeness going on here. That might have been me when I was spraying it, although I did do it very thin, so I'd very much doubt it, or it could just be something in the plastic, but that's fine. That's what primer is all about. So I shall wait for that to dry nice and hard, at least till tomorrow, or maybe even longer than that, and then give it a rub and spray it with one more coat of white primer before I do anything else, and see if we can get rid of that. Other than that though, the body looks pretty damn good, so I'm pleased with that. And also this little mite here looks pretty good too, the front bonnet. So I'm really rather chuffed about that too. So yeah, so far so good. I know I've not done a lot, but you know, this is a beginning. And I think the whole thing with making models like this is take your time. It's not worth trying to do everything all at once because it won't work. It just won't. All it does is make a right mess of everything. So either do 2 models at the same time, or do some, I mean, I've got my trains here, so I do that sort of thing, or I play music or whatever. So, you know, bits and pieces in between. You can be making other parts perhaps put together that need doing while you're waiting for other stuff to dry, but always wait for stuff to dry really well. I made a mistake about that many times before, and it just ain't worth that mistake because you just end up ruining the whole thing. So yep, I'm going to go ahead and do that right now and get started with this engine compartment, or engine piece I should say, not compartment. What am I talking about? This is possibly where people will be going if they're watching this. Oh my god, he didn't, but I did. I bought these from Temu and they are absolutely brilliant. I've got to say, they're no worse than where you get them from anywhere else, and as a matter of fact probably come from the same place. So you know, these are absolutely brilliant. You can get right close to the actual piece that you're cutting out of the spurs, as I call, or as I call them anyway. So yeah, absolutely brilliant. And then once they're off, there isn't really too much cleaning up to do, which is brilliant. That's exactly what you want. And a little bit of cleaning up, which I shall use an X-Acto knife for, but very carefully, of course, and always using the blade outwards and not inwards. You're very tempted to do that, but you really want to be doing this because you don't want to end up hurting yourself. So yeah, these things are deadly, they really are. And as a matter of fact, that I could do with a sharper one of these, but anyway, yeah, all good. So yeah, I'm moving on. Just to say before I go ahead and put these together, it's the best thing to do obviously, and what most people do, is to do it dry. You know, don't put any glue on, see how well it all goes together. This one's fitting really well. So that's great. I'm just going to get some, make sure that that sits in nice and easily. Once I'm happy with that, then I will actually use the glue and put it together. I'm going to put the engine pretty much together before I paint it, because painting before you glue, the less you do that the better really, because it just makes an absolute mess everywhere. So yeah, so I'm just going to take the sump off and then put all this together dry and see what it looks like, and then I'm going to stick it together. So yeah, when all this goes together, this is going to be nice and neatly put together. And that I'm not happy with that fit at the moment. It needs to go, whoops, it needs to go down a little bit, so I need to figure out why that is. Okay, so that's why you dry fit things. There is a little bit of imperfection there that needs sorting out so that it actually sits nice and tight. It's sitting tight that side, but not that side. I can see why, so I'm just going to try and clean that up a tiny little bit and get it to sit a bit better than it is at the moment. Okay, so I was just getting a magnifying light on that, which was really handy just to see what was in the way. There was a couple of little bits that were in the way, but it's sitting a lot more flush now on that side than it was before, so that should be good. If I keep this tight now, once I glue the other 2 bits together, I'm using this stuff, which is Tamiya, or Tamiya as what I call it anyway. I don't know how it's actually pronounced, but then again, I am Norfolk, aren't I? So there you go. Yeah, extra thin cement. Now this is brilliant. You quickly, well, what you do is you put stuff together, and where the joins are is where you run the little brush down, and it actually glues them together really well. So you want to make sure that it's all a tight fit. You can use pegs if you need to, but I'll glue one piece here, then I can hold it for a little while until it's taken, and then put those 2 together and glue that. Teeny little brush on the end, little thin brush, you just run it across. I'll do it on the first piece now just to show you, but all you do is you run it along the seam. Oops, I'm shaking a bit. No, there you go. Right, okay, so I'll now run it across that seam. Now I'll hold that together for a minute perhaps, or something like that, and that should have taken and glued together. Slurp of coffee. Yep, that's starting to take, you can tell. So that's brilliant. So that's sticking together. So you do it with the rest of it, and once it's all stuck nice and tight, then we're all super ready to go. So, and we can check all the seams, smooth the seams off a little bit with you know, if there's any seams that, you know, don't look like they're sitting together nicely. Just try and make it, if you want to make it all look as neat as possible, so that when you paint you don't actually see all the seams there once you've painted. So that's stuck already, so that's brilliant. So I just got to do the rest now, so I'll do that right now. I don't think you need to see me sticking all this together. I must admit, the more I do on camera, the more I shake. so I'll do it without the camera, and it'll probably turn out a lot better than me trying to do it while the camera's on. God knows why I do that, but I just do. It's camera shyness perhaps, or something like that, I don't know. But anyhow, I'm gonna now put all this together. What fun though, I'm having fun already, I've got to say. I just love making models, I really do. So yeah, I'm just gonna put this thing together now, and glue it piece by piece and tidy it all up until I'm happy with the way it looks. I think it's a good idea to always pay attention to these things. I mean, that's the second thing that needs to be done as far as I'm concerned. I've just got to concentrate on this bit at the moment, which is, you know, the first three parts that I've put together. So they need painting, and painting is always a case of, I know that this sump has got to be a different colour, and it's got to go right to the edge, so it'll be easier to paint that first. If I go over a little bit, it doesn't matter, because I'm then going to be using black, and black can go right up underneath the lip, so it should make it a lot easier to make it look neat and tidy. So yeah, that's pretty much what I'm going to do. So that's good. As you can see, that's all going to be pretty much black. So yeah, I'm going to definitely paint this bit first, and then I will be able to paint the black. That's going to be a bit tough, I must admit, so I didn't think of that, but I'm going to have a very small brush to get through there, without touching the other part that's going to be a totally different colour, of course, but we should be able to manage okay. So all cool, all good. That's all stuck together really nicely. This glue is just bollocks. Sorry, I shouldn't use that word. It's just absolutely brilliant. So I don't know if I'd put a little piece across there, but I'm going to anyway, just to give it a little bit of strength. So yeah, absolutely happy with this stuff. I did used to use this. This is okay, but that stuff is much better. Again though, this is, you know, this can be very handy for other bits and pieces that you might not want to use that for. It's got a nice little, the only trouble with these things are they do get blocked up, so you need a nice pin that's just the right size to go in and unblock them sometimes, but I've had this for a long time now. This is Revell as well as that, but I must admit I prefer using this when I can. However, I mean, this stuff is terrible if you've painted something already. It'll just, well, it makes such a mess. This makes a little bit of a mess, but you got a little bit more of a chance with this stuff, I've got to say. But anyway, yep, I'm going to move on and probably do a little bit of painting now. So before I do any painting, of course you did have two choices with this, but I like to glue stuff together if I can before painting it, because it always makes such a mess with glue. So this bit that's going to be a little bit difficult, I'm going to paint this piece first, but I'm going to let it really dry. So this is what I'm talking about with letting things dry, you know, is to let it dry nice and hard, maybe a day or two, and then I can put a piece of masking tape just around that piece there, so that when I paint the black, it ain't going to get all on this piece. Of course, I could have done it the other way. I suppose I could have painted it and then on the bottom part that you stick, just give it a rub with sandpaper and also on the top, and it probably would have glued together, but it still probably would have made a mess of the paintwork, and that's what I don't want to do. So that's what I'm going to do, is I'm going to stick a little bit of tape around there when I do the black. I won't need to here and around here, just that crazy hard piece down there, so that I don't get any black on the, I think this is aluminium that I've got to paint this, which is one of the paints I'm waiting for. So yeah, but anyway, yeah, that's what I want to do, because this bit is all black. And then you've got another two different colors here. You've got this piece that's got to be a particularly grey, I do believe, and then this bit, which is again, I think probably metallic or something like that. I don't know, because I haven't looked yet. But yeah, lots and lots of painting to do, and that's always the fiddly bit, really, I suppose. But also, I find painting, if you've got some music on in the background or watching some of your favourite YouTube channels, possibly not mine, you will be able to just sit and relax and paint away using one of these things, which helps to see what you're doing, and some really nice little fine brushes, loads and loads of them around. If you can afford to buy some really decent brushes, that's the way to go, because cheap ones, I have got plenty of those, and however they do come in handy, at least you chuck them away, although that is a bit of a waste. I've got a favourite one here, but that'll be too, well, no, it won't, probably be about the right size. But yeah, if you can get proper hair brushes, you know, I mean, it'll probably be a lot better to paint with. But and you want some decent paint as well. If the paint's too thick or too thin or whatever, it can cause problems. So it's always good to have a little bit thinner if it's too thick, and if it's too thin, then just leave the lid off for a little while, let it thicken up a bit, and then stir it and what have you, and hopefully that'll be what you want, you know. So yeah, just a few tips. They're my tips. I mean, they might not mean nothing to everybody, but they're handy to me. Okay, brilliant. So just put a nice little piece of tape on the back part there and painted it this colour that it needs. So that's all nicely painted and ready to dry. So that's cool. So I'll now let that dry really well, a day or so, and then put a piece of tape on that side and just get the black paint down there, which was the hardest part I could have done. And then the rest will be plain sailing, basically. So all this part's got to be black, and then I do believe this has got to be another particular colour. But yeah, that's the way I did it. So yeah, it all should, when it's done, look really neat and tidy. Magic. Okay, so I've got the parts that I need. Some are very small, so make sure you don't drop them on the floor, because let's face it, anytime you drop anything on the floor, you can never find it again. I'm just going to sit this on top, and I've realised that you know, there'll be some paint where I want to stick, so I'm gently scraping a little bit of that paint off with a knife, because when you glue things, you want them to glue nice and strongly, and they never do if you leave paint there. So just gently across the bits that are going underneath that part, like so, and then it gives it somewhere for it to sit, and then this sits that way round, and it sits over top, and as you see where I've scraped, you're not going to see a thing, and the glue is actually going to take a nice hold there because there's no paint to stop it. So that's brilliant. So I'm going to stick that on because the painting is on the inside of this, so I have to do that by hand anyway, obviously, and I might as well do it while it's fitted onto the engine piece. And then these bits can be cleaned up and probably put on, as I might paint these first by putting those two together and then painting them the colour that they want, and then this one I might even paint that before I actually put it on, but whatever. Or I could actually put it on and paint it. I'll see which is. Always look for the best way you think it'll be, or the easiest way you think it'll be to paint these things, you know, first before we actually put them on, or once you've put them on and paint them, you know, so you've got something to hold as you do it. It's kind of up to you, really. I just go along that way, and just think to myself, you know, which way is going to be the easiest way to paint these things. And then of course there's the drying time, so you know, if you did paint these first, you then got to wait for them to totally dry really before you try and even try to stick them on. Again, it looks like this will be fitting into there, and if we want a nice tight fit, we could take some of the paint off, but we definitely want to take the paint off of the part where it actually pushes in. If you see what I mean, there's like a little slit and that pushes in. First of all, I'm going to clean that slit up a bit, because it will be a little bit closed by the paint, and make sure that I can dry fit it and everything first. Once all that's done, yeah, it'll all be nice, neat and tidy, hopefully. It's always good to have a choice of glue, and this time, instead of using this, I'm actually going to use this glue. Be very careful with this glue though, like I said before, it's a nightmare on paint, so I'm going to put a little bit in the grooves that I know it sits, which is cool. These bits here, they'll sit glued at it, and I'll put a tiny little piece on little spots on the areas that I've just scraped the paint off, but I'm going to do it very carefully, because if I put too much on, it'll all drip down the sides and make a total mess of the whole thing. So with these things, be careful. See how quick it's coming out first. I can see that that's coming out fairly well already. It's not blocked or anything, so that, you know, I squeeze it too strongly and it comes gushing out all over the option. So I should now be able to control what I'm doing here. I like to have a little bit of light on the subject, a little bit extra light, but yeah, I'm going to put a little drop in there, and a drop in there, a drop in there, and a drop there. As I said, a few little drops, whoops, on there and there. Not too much, this is what I'm saying. That will probably be plenty enough, and then I can just get it and push it into place, hold it there for a few seconds, and we should be rocking and rolling and moving on. So yeah, that's grand. Brilliant. As I say, that's a good way to glue parts like that, you know, rather than, because these are more for joins. So, you know, building an aeroplane, putting the two halves together, running it down the seam, and then rubbing it all down, filling it and making sure there's no gaps or anything. That's good for that way of gluing things. This is good for gluing tiny little things that go into holes and stuff like that, as far as I'm concerned. That's just not very good for gluing along edges, like say this sort of thing. So if I went along there and along there to try and get things to glue, it would probably run all over the option and cause a bit of a problem. So there you go, that's my opinion, but it doesn't have to be everybody's, just mine. Now this is exactly why I do these videos, because I'm hoping that it helps other people out, as I just put that piece on first, and to be fair, I just got a little knife and prised it back up again, because it's best to fit this front bit first and then put that on top, as that tucks underneath. It doesn't, well it does. So to be fair, the instructions do show that, and it says number 1 to put that on, and then number 2 to put that on top. So again, you really need to study these instructions if you can, and that's something I don't do always, and that's exactly what happens when you don't. So I just thought I'd mention it, because that's how easy it is to go wrong when you're building these model kits. But never mind, it wasn't a problem. It didn't take long to just prise that up slightly and push that in and drop it back down again. So yeah, everything's super and everything's fine. So I can now move on, putting the other bits and pieces on. So I've sprayed the two body parts now with some primer underneath, just to give it something to stick to when I paint it. And now I'm just going to do the top. Now, in all honesty, I can't be bothered to set up turntables and things like that. I have got something similar to that sort of thing, but I need to get in and out because it's a bit curvy. So I'm going to get some Oh, I've forgotten what it's called. I've forgotten what it's called. Yes, it's called blue tack. That's it. Yes, some blue tack, and get that stuck onto the top of the roof there inside as easy as or as hard as I can, I should say. And the same with this. And then get a stick and stick that into it, so I've got something to hold on to. Make sure it's nice and secure, and then I'll be able to take it outside and spray it today, as it's a very nice day. So you want to make sure it's a pretty big piece, really, to be fair, so you can get that nice and deep in, so that doesn't come unstuck, and that you've got it nice and tight, so, you know, press down very hard all around the edges to get it stuck onto the actual thing itself, and then you should be okay to go. So yeah, this is what you can do, is you can shift it that way, that way, and that way, that way, and that way as you're spraying it, and you can get everything done that you want to do. But like I say, make sure that this whole thing is as stuck and as strong as possible, because the worst thing that can happen is it falls off when it's wet onto wherever you're spraying it, like grass or something like that, and then it's an absolute nightmare. You have to wait for it to dry and take it all off again. Okay, so the body has now been rubbed down. I've gotten rid of all the imperfections, give it another coat and then let it dry, and then finally rubbed it down all round. So it's now time to put on the colour. I'm going to do a very fine start to it and just keep adding a little bit at a time. One coat, then another, not too heavy. If you do it too heavy, that's where you start getting the runs. So off we go, let's do it. Okay, so that's just one coat, and I am really pleased with that. What great paint this is. I mean, this is superb. It's covered really well. It's got a nice shine. I've done that part of the car. I've done the inside of the bonnet. Obviously not the other side yet. I need to let that dry completely, at least a day or two, before I can then turn it over the other side and do the top. But that part of the model has been sprayed, so that's good. And then the bottom part over here, it's not all going to be red, but I've sprayed it all red at the moment. And yeah, that's all just covered really well. I'm extremely pleased and chuffed with that. So yeah, I'm now going to leave those to dry until I can then get some more paint coming in that I've got on order, and I can move on starting to build this kit together and painting all the other parts as I go along. So yeah, I'm really pleased with the way that the colour has come out on this. So this is just absolutely superb. Nice big piece of polystyrene in there, always handy. These are, get hold of a piece of this from packaging or whatever. It's great for sticking your bits and pieces into and leaving them there to dry. So that's great, cool stuff. Another quick tip, if I may be so bold, of course, is to stir these damn paints really well. If you don't stir them really well, then they don't paint on very well. So stir and stir and stir and stir and stir, as boring as it might be, because eventually it'll pay off, believe me. Okay, so as sad as it sounds, I'm really having fun here. This is the whole point of doing these things. Now I'm working on the engine, painting all the little bits and pieces bit by bit and tidying it up. So that's now drying again, so I thought I would go on to another stage while waiting. So I'm going to go down next to the next one, which is number 4. And I've got all these little bits, and there they are. Whoa, what fun, what fun, what fun. And I'm going to put them all together, clean them up, put them all together, and then start giving it all this painting business, which is actually, funnily enough, and might sound sad, what I like doing. Because I don't know, it's just a little bit of music on in the background maybe, or a YouTube video, and just sit and let the world go by and paint these little bits and pieces the best that you can, just like I'm doing here with this engine, painting all the individual little bits. I've just put some gloss on the alternator, or is it, oh no, that is not the alternator, actually. I think that is the starting motor, you stupid man. Yes, the starting motor there, because it was supposed to be gloss, so that's grand. Because I did everything matte black, I put some clear on. So there we are. Okay, so yeah, I'm going to go on to this next bit now, and this is where the fun for me is, really, because you just do this slowly, and you know, eventually after all these bits and pieces, you end up with a nice model car, hopefully. That's what I'm working for. I've done cars before and I absolutely love them. I've only just finished building a USS Enterprise, the original. I enjoyed doing that, but it's the first time I'd ever done a kit that big with lighting in it. I've now gone and bought myself also the Mobius model that had to come from America, but I got it off of Amazon, so that's not too bad, of the Lost in Space Jupiter 2 spaceship. So that's going to be fun when I retire. But while I haven't got an awful lot of time, just coming back in here every now and again and building this little car has gone down a treat. So yeah, moving on. Okay, so now I've actually painted the parts that I wanted to paint. I now have them all nicely painted. The gold is the last I painted. I never did like that gold much, so hard to cover, but it's done an all right job this time round. And I've just rubbed these parts slightly here to take some of the paint off, because these are the bits that join in these two places here. And whenever you've got paint mixed with paint and glue, it just doesn't work very well. So I'm now going to scrape the inside of these so that they don't have all that paint on anymore, and then we should have a little bit of an easier job sticking them in their places. So I shall do that now without ruining too much. So, you know, gently, not too rough, and be careful with these knives, of course. I can see, here you go, you can hear it now, scraping the paint off just around the edges. It's just somewhere for that glue to join and for them also to slot in nice and easily. So sometimes it's easier to use the blunt part of the blade. Works just as well. You're just waiting, I mean, you're just dry fitting really at the moment to make sure that that fits in there nice. I can already feel the resistance of those going in at the moment because they're still not quite there, so we still got a way to go. Not too far though, not too far. So yeah, I'll keep going. Very gently, because these things are so fragile in a way. So grabbing hold of them too tightly or whatever could totally ruin what you're doing. So I'm just going to do a little more. You know, that the mistake that I always made making these model kits was not to do this. You know, put the glue on straight away and then struggle like hell to get the damn thing to fit. And of course it just ends up causing all sorts of trouble. So, you know, it really isn't worth it. Just trying to get something in there. I think that's all I'm going to be able to get in there, so I'm going to have to try again. Right, let's see. Right, it's got to go this way round, by the way. Okay, so yep, that's now, and that's actually slotting in there now really nicely. As you can see, you don't even need glue, but I'm going to put it on anyway, and I'm going to use this stuff. So I'm just going to go along the seams either side and let that seep in to where I've scraped the paint off of each part, and that will sit there nicely how it should and be ready for the next stage. Excellent, lovely jubbly. Okay, so that's where I'll leave part one, and then part two will follow, obviously. So thought I'd cut this in two, as it will take a while for me to make this model. So thanks for watching. If you like watching this kind of thing, then that's grand. Please just give us a like, or perhaps even subscribe. You know, I know you don't have to, but it would be lovely if you did. It would really help me one way or the other, because I put a lot of time into putting in these videos. To some, they might be boring. To others, they might be entertaining. Who knows? But anyway, thanks for watching. Take care. Bye-bye.
Got a load